Hey, what's up guys? In today's video, we're going to look at the first things to do for the Z Fold 6. So all the things that you can do first involve the settings section of Samsung, and we'd like to move for the first 4 items in what we call the home screen section. The first thing that you want to change is that the inner screen to be different from the outer screen. So Samsung Z Fold 6, one of the best benefits of this phone is you're able to have a different layout in your front screen when it's in the cover position, and it's completely different to when it's opened out in the inner display. You can see that my settings are completely different, and that also extends to the app drawer. So if I were to look at the app drawer here, you can see that the layout is quite different. So to change this, when we go to settings, you want to go to home screen over here, and you make sure cover screen mirroring is turned off. When it is on, it's going to be exactly the same, the inner display and the outer, but I would say toggle it off to get the full different experience from the inner and outer screen, and this is an exclusive feature to Samsung foldables only. The next feature in home would be rotate to landscape. So if you scroll to the bottom, you would see this toggle over here. If I were to turn this off, if I turn my screen sideways, you see it stays in the portrait orientation, and the same goes with the cover screen. However, when it is toggled on and I say rotate to landscape, it will do that on the inner display as well as the cover display. So if this is a feature that you find useful, definitely make sure to toggle that on. Now the third feature in the home screen is activate Google News Feed. So on most Android phones, when you swipe completely to the left, you find your Google News Feed. Now this can be turned off in settings and add media to homepage. So if I toggle this off and I go back, you can see that that setting has gone. So you cannot access the Google News Feed like earlier from the homepage. So I like to usually put that on. And as you can see, it comes back. The fourth feature in the home screen settings would be to swipe down for the notification panel. So if you're on the home page anywhere and you want to easily access the notification panel, instead of coming to the top here like this, it just makes reachability a lot easier with foldables. In the home screen, you can come down and toggle swipe down for notification panel. So if this has been off and I go to the home screen, you see it opens the app drawer instead. And I find it much more useful for reachability case to get to the notification panel that way. And this applies to the cover screen too. So if I were to just pull down, straight away I get my notification panel. Now the next set of items are to do with the display settings. So in settings, we can move to display over here. And the first thing that you might want to change is screen continuity. So what that means is when you lock the phone, like so, would you like the app that you're in to continue displaying? So as you can see, I have that off. My phone immediately locks, and I would need the fingerprint sensor to unlock it. But for some of you folks that want to keep this feature on, and let me show you what that looks like, you simply come down and you go to continue apps on cover screen. Over here, it takes some time to load, but once it does, you can do this for individual apps, but I'm going to, for the case of simplicity, toggle all apps on. So now with that feature on, if you see, let's say I'm in the clock, all right, app, and I want to continue when I'm in my cover screen, I can just do that. Same with when you're browsing. If you're browsing and you want to continue, you can continue. So that's very handy to have and definitely makes it useful when using a foldable phone. So the next feature in displays would be apps to be appropriate for large displays. So in that, you go to displays, you can move down to full screen apps, and you can essentially toggle each app separately how you'd like it when the cover display is open. Whether you'd like it full screen, 16:9 or 4:3, the aspect ratio. And you can see full screen will just take advantage of the entire screen. 16:9 is the more traditional content creation these days on landscape mode. So you can have all these and set them for all your apps how you'd like them to open, and that's really neat. So as you can see, by default, I've just put them for full screen. The next feature is this dock that you see over here. So how to get that in place So when you go into displays, you scroll down, you can come to taskbar here. So if you disable it, you will not have that. When web browsing especially, this becomes useful, but you can see it's not there. And it's very good for multitasking. So if I were to put that on, you can see that I can easily switch between different apps easily without having to do much gestures. And you can additionally go further in the taskbar to make this taskbar disappear when you want. So you can show recent apps also, up to 4 of them. So I have 2 selected here only. And you can hide the taskbar by holding on the side. So if you're browsing content and you really find that it's getting in the way, the taskbar, you can hide it and keep scrolling like so. Be careful not to do it in the middle because that will activate circle to search. But yeah, anywhere on the side. Now the next feature involves the cover screen. I have a screen protector here, and as you can see, it's not very well adhered to, it's coming off, so I'm going to replace that. But nevertheless, as you know, screen protectors, they're a piece of glass in some cases, or like the new silicone film ones we have. However, they do make the screens less responsive slightly in some cases. So if you were to go to settings, you can easily go to display and enhance the touch sensitivity. So if you come to display and you go down to touch sensitivity, you can easily toggle it on and you'll find it a lot more responsive. So I've just set it off because I'm going to use the phone without the screen protector. But that's another feature you could add if you're having trouble scrolling when you've just put a new screen protector. Now the next feature in displays is simply changing the font size and style. So if you so choose to find that this font is too small or too big, you can easily downscale it to fit more content, or you can upscale it if you have issues with seeing and reading, if you just want bigger text. So I like it just a bit above from the middle range. And you can also change the font style and add your own fonts if you'd like. You could also choose to make it bold font, and that simply makes these dark, all the text, if you can see. Now a new feature when it comes to displays is Samsung has gone the extra mile for people with impaired color vision and have color blindness. So this is not in the display settings. If you scroll down and go to accessibility, you can find here vision enhancements. And here you can change the contrast and all of these different versions. But what really stuck out to me was this color correction. You see, there are different types of color blindness. There's one called Deutan if you suffer from green and red impairment, Proton with red and green, and Tritan with blue and yellow and grayscale. If I were to put that on now, right? Just watch the green, or I would say the red here. As soon as I turn it on, it's going to change it slightly. Darken this if you saw. If I turn it back off, it made it brighter. So this will help correct the color visions for those who suffer from color blindness and really makes your user experience a lot easier. It's a really neat feature that no one's talked about, and I think that this is very, very useful when it comes to adapting more people or bringing more people into the ecosystem and take advantage of these bright screens. Now moving on, to take advantage of the foldable part of the folding screen and really, do 2 things maybe in flex mode. Initially, flex mode is not enabled for me, that was. So if you go to settings, and I'd like to put that on, so I can, if I'm watching YouTube or Netflix, I can easily scroll forth and back using one part of the screen and the other part to view the content. It's really good for cameras and also good for viewing your photos. But to activate this, you need to go to advanced features. Now in advanced features, there's a bunch of features that you'd like to play around with, and I'll show you them in a second. But essentially, if you go to flex mode panel and switch it on, you can see that you can now have different viewships. So if, for example, I press this, I can now scroll this way, control the entire video from the bottom part and view it forward this way. And this extends to flex mode in many different apps for different reasons and different use cases. So I have that toggled on. Just make sure that's on so you can take advantage of the foldable screen. Now the next feature in advanced features that you'd like to probably consider is making the media extra bright for like videos and Netflix and YouTube, and that's in advanced features. If you go to video brightness, mine is set to normal, but you could essentially make it bright and select which apps you'd like to make the phone add extra brightness for extra clarity. And this generally, because of low ambient light at night, the content generally is dimmed down. But if you prefer extra bright content, even at night, this is a really useful feature and it makes the videos pop. So I'd recommend keeping that on and give it a try. Now the next feature is Bixby. So traditionally on Samsung phones, if you long press the power button, it activates Bixby. But I'm not such a big fan of Bixby, and I prefer just to be able to power off the phone instead and change the function of the side key. So if I go to advanced features and I go to side button, you can see instead of wake Bixby, I can change it to power off. So that now if I press will give the traditional power off, restart, emergency SOS. So I'm going to keep that on. You could also double press. I like to keep it stock to open the camera, but you can open any app in that matter. And if you're wondering if you'd like Bixby to stay on and how would you really turn the phone off, so you could essentially alternatively just swipe down, again press this button here, and then it comes back. Now, one of the most underrated features for Android phones compared to iOS is the ability to have dual messenger apps. For example, I have here 2 WhatsApps. One is for work and one is for my personal life. And essentially I can have 2 different messenger apps for WhatsApp, and I can do it with Facebook Messenger, any messaging app generally that Samsung has incorporated that you would normally need this feature. To activate this, it's again in advanced features over here, and you scroll down and you can come to dual messenger. And then from these apps that I have installed, you can see I can create more than 2 apps, like for Facebook, for WhatsApp, which I have turned on. And as you can see, the dual app has these 2 dots here, like a notification sign, but just slightly adapted to let you know that that's the second. Now moving on, if you want the always on display on the inner screen or on the outer screen, you need to activate this by going to settings. You come down to lock screen and AOD, which means always on display. You click always on display on. So just know that this will eat up a bit more battery, but it does really help in reachability when you want to see the time and your phone is a bit far from you. You can also adapt to when to show it. So I set it to always, but if you want to conserve more battery and you still want to use this feature, you could set it to auto mode, and it will essentially detect if your phone is like in a purse, your pocket, then there's no need for the always on display and turn off. And you can also schedule it when you want or set it for just specific notifications that are new. You could also tap to show, but I set it to always. I like that Samsung gives you many options to choose because everyone has their difference in opinion and what they like. Now the next feature, which I find really useful and more so for convenience of day-to-day, is in your lock screen in AOD. You could simply go to secure lock settings, you enter your PIN here. Once you enter your PIN, you can come down here and you could select lock network and security. So I have that toggled on, but I do prefer it and I'm going to change it to toggle off. So with it toggled on, if I had my phone locked and I wanted to, let's say, turn the Wi-Fi off or the mobile data, I have to put in my password for it to execute. But for convenience, sometimes on a day-to-day, if you find that you're having to reach this a lot during the day and it's inconvenient to do that, by toggling this off, now when you swipe down from the notification, even when the phone is locked, you can turn it off and on. That's pretty neat. Now the next feature is when you unlock the phone when it's locked, if you prefer to press the button and it unlocks as opposed to just resting and it unlocks. So right now I have it where my thumb, if it just rests, it will unlock. I don't have to click the power button. However, if I don't want that and I want to click, I can come to security and privacy, lock screen, fingerprints here. It will ask me to put my PIN. Once I do that, it will open the fingerprint section here and I can say fingerprint unlock and always on. I can choose between only the cover screen, the main screen, or both. And if I do it off, now if you see, if I rest my finger or my thumb here, it will not unlock. I have to press the button and it does. I prefer when it's simply turned on and on both screens. It just makes the opening and closing much faster for me, but do as you please. I would say I just like to show you that you could adapt the phone to what suits you best. Now moving on to the sound. Generally, this phone has very good speakers, and to capitalize on the speakers, I would recommend going to the sound section at the top and going down to sound quality and effects. When you do that, turn Dolby Atmos on. You could set it on auto or change it to whatever style you prefer, but this will really enhance the richness and the quality of the sound coming from the native speakers, and the speakers are very good, so I would recommend turning this feature on. There are a lot of other options to play around here in the sound, like boost dialogue and so on, but I just tend to turn Dolby Atmos on. Now moving on to some battery features, Samsung has enhanced this a lot, and you can now protect the charging. So with this off, you generally put the charger on and it will keep continuously charge even at 100%, and this can degrade your battery faster with time. So if you have a good routine, I would recommend putting this on and setting it to adaptive, so that when you're asleep it learns to only charge your phone up to around 80%, and then just before you wake up, if you're on cable charger or wireless, it will generally start charging a few minutes before you wake up, such that it is fully charged when you wake up. But if you change it to basic, it essentially keeps charging to 100% and then going back to 95 again, like a loop. And if you want maximum, it just never goes past 80%. So these are the different tiers. I just set it to adaptive. You can even change the charging speed by scrolling down in the battery section, going to charging settings and toggling fast wireless and fast charging options. You can turn on and off the battery percentage. So if that's something you're wondering how to do or what you prefer, put it on or off. I like it on. And the last feature that was a cool new feature with Galaxy AI is now you can have customizable wallpapers. If you go to Wallpaper and Style, go to Change Wallpaper, you can now create with AI, and I can make a generative wallpaper by clicking here. You do have some basic settings to pick from, different modes here like painting, minerals, translucent. If I were to go to, for example, terrain, I can generally change the wording here that is grayed out, so I can make it realistic Salt Lake in shades of blue, for example, and generate. The phone will take some time, a few seconds to process, and just within a matter of seconds, it will give me 4 different options to choose from. And I could have essentially set this as my wallpaper. And if you don't like any of this, you could regenerate it or change some stuff until you like it. And then just click set, and I can save for the home screen, for example. Okay. So now when I go back, I have this AI powered wallpaper. And if you can see on the text at the bottom, it does say AI generated as a watermark to let users know in general for any AI generated content, which is neat. So guys, I hope you found this video useful in that the new features of the Galaxy Z Fold 6 can be put to good potential right out of the box when you begin using the phone, and you can customize to how you would prefer to use this phone and take advantage of the folding features and multitask in the ways you want, simple daily tasks like unlocking the phone and much more. So stay tuned for more content. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, please remember to like, subscribe and hit the bell notification for more content. It really helps the YouTube algorithm that will help grow this channel.